I'm here with Gorilla Glue at the Cincinnati Mini Makers Fair 2014, and I'm going to show you guys how to make a beer bottle serving board. It's a very unique gift or something that you can make for yourself. So let's get started. Once you've got your wood picked out and you're happy with it, make sure you've got a good clean edge and we can prepare for glue up. For this project, we're going to use Gorilla Glue polyurethane glue. This is a great product for applications that are going to be exposed to water, like a cutting board or a serving tray when you're going to clean it off. First thing we want to do is we're going to dampen one surface that we're going to be gluing up, and then we're going to apply the glue to the other. And just getting the surface wet. Now I'm going to use the polyurethane glue. Apply a thin bead along the edge of each board. Now I'm going to align the boards. And clamp them up. You'll see a little bit of the glue squeezing out. That's totally normal. That'll dry, and it's real easy to clean up once it's dry. And we'll show you that in the next couple of steps. So once you've let the glue dry, you're going to unclamp it, and you're going to clean off all the squeeze out. Great thing about Gorilla Glue is that it's real easy to scrape off. Just comes off with just a few swipes. It resembles something like foam. Now I'm going to take some sandpaper and I'm going to sand this surface down. Doesn't have to be perfect, but just to kind of get the high spots off. I'm using 150 grit. You can use a heavier grit sandpaper if you want. And you're going to repeat that process on both sides. And that's what you're looking for. So once you have everything sanded and nice and clean on both sides, you're going to take a pattern. This is a pattern that kind of resembles a painter's palette, and then I'm going to trace a line all the way around the outside of the board. Make it nice and dark. I'm also going to make the hole here in the middle. And now we're ready to go and start cutting. So now I'm going to clamp this to a work surface here so it stays nice and steady. I'm going to be shifting it around a little bit as I'm cutting with my jigsaw. Again, it takes a little bit of time. Take your time. Slow and easy wins the race. And I'm going to use a jigsaw here with just a smooth scroll cut blade. So once you've got the rough shape cut out, we're going to need to clean it up. There's going to be a lot of edges that are going to need to be smoothed out and filed down. So we're going to take you through that process now. I'm using a rough rasp here to clean up the edges, get out all the saw marks. Take your time. Don't be afraid to shift the piece around as you're working through it. It's going to make the process a lot easier, and you won't end up hurting yourself. The inside edges here take a little bit more effort. Sometimes you want to position the file a little bit closer to the tip, get a little bit better detail and control. And I can switch to my smaller file here as well, especially when I get to these areas here. If you don't have a file or rasp, you can also use just a sanding block and work your way around the edges that way. It may take a little bit more time, but you'll still get the same job done. So once you've got your edge smooth, now you're going to trace a line around the edges, and you're going to ease that edge over with some files in the next step. So I'm basically just using my finger to trace a fine line around the perimeter of the top and the side edges. We're going to do this all the way around the entire board, so you've got an edge to create a 45-degree angle against. So once you've got your edge traced all around the outside, we're going to file it down with a file or rasp or sandpaper. The trick here is just keep your file or sandpaper at a 45-degree angle and just keep hogging away the waste until you're able to meet the lines on both edges of the board. This process is going to take a while. Don't rush. You're going to go through and go around the entire perimeter of the board, just working your way around, keeping that 45-degree angle. So once you've got your 45s cut all the way around the edge, now it's time to start sanding and easing all those sharp corners so it feels nice and smooth to your hand. We're going to go back here and clamp it down. And we're going to use sandpaper and a sanding block, something that's nice and comfortable for your hand, and start working all the way around the edge. Again, this is going to take a little bit of time. Don't rush. The more time you spend on this process, it'll feel a lot easier in your hand when it's all done. And it finishes much better when you've got a good smooth surface all the way around the edges. Once you've got everything sanded smooth, we're going to drill the holes in the board now. The first hole, the big thumb hole, uses a 1 1/4 inch Forstner bit. Make sure you've got something underneath supporting the piece so you've got a good clean hole all the way through. Nice and slow. And I know I've made it through because I can see the different color of the wood. Unclamp it, and there we go. Next, we're going to drill the hole for the little loop to hang the board. I'm using a 5/8 inch diameter bit here, and again, the same process. You want to go nice and easy and have something supporting under the board so you don't blow out the hole at the end. There we go. The next step in cleanup is basically repeating some of the previous steps with a file and rasp and sandpaper to clean up this thumb hole, because you're going to want that to be nice and comfortable. So I'm going to use some rasps to rough it out. This is going to require a little bit more time as well. Work your way all the way around. Reposition the piece so that you're always attacking it at a 45-degree angle. And again, it doesn't have to be perfect because we're going to sand over this as well. Make sure you're following that 45-degree angle all the way around until you've completed the entire circumference of the hole. There we go. And then you're going to repeat this process on the opposite side so it's nice and clean. And then we're going to sand it. The next step is we're going to apply a leather coaster cut at a 3-inch diameter, probably about 7 to 8 ounces thick, and we're going to glue it to the surface of the board. Now I'm going to use Gorilla Glue White in this particular application. Again, it's 100% waterproof. We're going to want to make sure we dampen one surface and glue the other. So I'm going to apply some glue to the underside of this coaster, and then I'm going to spread it out. Make sure you get it all the way to the edges. That'll be important so it doesn't peel off. So I'm just spreading this around nice and even until the whole surface is coated. And then I'm going to dampen the other surface where this is going to appear. Now I'm going to place this down, position it where I want it on the board. And then I'm going to clamp it with just a backer board here for some even pressure. And I'm going to clamp it down, not too much, just so it's nice and firm. So I've let this dry for about 30 minutes. I cleaned up a little bit of the squeeze out around the edges. Now it's ready to go, and I'm going to apply cutting board oil finish to this. It's food safe, and it's easy to maintain over time. I'm just going to use a clean rag, and I'm going to apply some right to the surface, and then just start rubbing it in. Be a little bit careful around the edges of the coaster, but this is when the color really starts to pop. And you're going to basically just apply this on both sides of the cutting board until it's completely coated, and you're going to let it sit for about 25 or 30 minutes, apply another coat, and you're ready to go. So once the board is all dry, I've taken a boot string, tied a little knot at the end of it, and threaded it through the other side. This allows you to hang it up and display it, put it out of the way, and you're pretty much ready to go. The idea is that you can have a bottle of beer, and you can pick off the board and eat the food whenever you want and keep another hand free.